So today I've decided to start a new series for my channel, and it kind of started off with me thinking about those Assassin's Creed reviews that I wanted to do, but those were taking a little too long, so I was thinking maybe something like those weekly manga chapter reviews, which I was thinking about. I don't know any like new ones that are starting up, so there's obviously going to be bigger channels already doing them. So I decided not to, but then it gave me the idea. I want to do like actual book reviews. So for this new series, the first book that we're going to be reviewing is 1984 by George Orwell. And I've only read the first chapter so far, so it's going to be like whenever I have time to read, I'll read a chapter, and then afterwards I'm going to get into each chapter, what I think about it. Then maybe at the end I'll do like a whole review of every chapter, like I mean the whole book together, but we'll see when I get there. I've read the first chapter. It was, I think, like 13 pages long, and I have not read like a book in a while, like a novel. And I wanted to like start writing my own. So reading is going to help me with some ideas, maybe like just inspiration to start. So chapter 1, there's a lot of things that stood out to me, and I found it a very interesting first chapter. Um, the first couple things that I realized is the type of world building that George Orwell's going after. He like sets up, he doesn't introduce too many characters, and he sets up the main character. I think it is Winston. I'm already vaguely familiar with the story, but anyways, he sets up the main character Winston as someone who doesn't seem like he belongs in the world that he's living in, or in the society that he's living in. Um, there's some noteworthy things about the society. Um, always being monitored. It reminds me of cancel culture in a way, that things that you've said can be like used against you, even no matter how long it's been in the past. So people are living like they're always being monitored. And in the same way, nowadays, people kind of got to do the same thing because social media is out there. Anything could be caught on camera. You don't know. And then the second thing in that aspect, which I might do a separate video on altogether, is the concept of newspeak. It's their like official language of Oceania, the setting of the story. And newspeak, from I've heard some things about it. However, I don't want to like use what I've heard about it as my basis of understanding for it. So I'm gonna read it for myself. But from what I understand, they've introduced a couple newspeak terms, such as like, I think minute piece, minute truth, or some stuff, minute packs, some stuff like that, to refer to like the different ministries in the government. And then they also have some other terms which I might get into later. Those being double think, which I don't have a full understanding of yet. Then also there was another term. I can't remember what it was. But I know they use thought crime, unless that's what I'm thinking of. So those are the main ones though that that stood out to me. Double think, and then thought crimes. And another interesting aspect is that it seems that they're living in a society or a country, nation, kingdom, whatever it is, with only one party, which is the party of Big Brother, I believe. There's another word that was like ink code. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Think of ingsoc. I'm not sure what that is, but ingsoc. I'll research that right after maybe. And there's three slogans for this society, and it's really interesting. One is that war is peace, which sounds like not a paradox or oxymoron. That's oxymoron, that war is peace. Same with freedom is slavery. That's also an oxymoron. And then they criticize like true freedom, and there's a character who like represents that we'll get into later. And then ignorance is strength, which I'm not sure what to think about that yet, but I can see that being true in a way, but not in a good way. Like, if you don't know and then you're so ignorant and then based in your own ideology that you're like very strong in attacking another ideology or anything that's opposing to it. So in that sense, I understand ignorance is strength. I just don't think it's a good thing. But I think that's the one with the least amount of like explanation in it. There's another aspect of war is peace that I wanted to get into later on, but there's the different ministries, and just in the same way that war is peace doesn't make any sense. It's a self-refuting sentence, like it's an oxymoron. A lot of the most of their ministries have things that don't belong in them, that like it should not, they don't like, it doesn't go together. So in the ministry of truth, right, they deal with things, all things news, which does make sense to an extent, I'd say, but for the most part I agree. Entertainment, I don't understand how entertainment is truth. Then education has to be based in truth, so yes, but as long as it's real truth, not like a false sense of truth that the government's trying to give you. So news, entertainment, education, and then one I don't get at all is fine arts. Why would the Ministry of Truth be enveloped in fine arts unless they're like censoring the type of art that people are allowed to produce and that people are allowed to like look at? The second ministry is a ministry of peace, and the ministry of peace deals with war, which does make sense, but it begs the question: how is war peace when the ministry of peace deals with war? So it seems like they want to be in a eternal cycle of peace or war. So they're peace, which is war, right? And then the next one is the Ministry of Love, which I just don't understand that name at all. And they deal with law and order. So I hope they're gonna like George Orwell fleshes that out later on. But as for right now, I don't understand what that means at all. Like, why is a Ministry of Love even a thing? Like, what sense of love? There's many different types of love. Like, just like how in the Greek language they have all the different types of love, different words for the different types of loves, right? So what type of love are they talking about, and how does it go with law and order? And then the Ministry of Plenty, which economic affairs, that one just seems like something any country would have. It's just a weird name that they gave to it, Minute Plenty. Next, going back to the main character Winston, right? He, these are just like some interesting things that I found about, like things that stood out to me while reading the first chapter. He is worried about owning a book, and even though it's not explicitly said, I believe it is a notebook, and apparently it's a compromising possession. I'm not sure why. It could be because the government sees no need for people to writing their own stuff, writing their own thoughts down, because that could be considered doublethink, or it could be later on he gets into something about thought crime. That's near the end of the chapter though. So that was interesting. He's worried, like panicking when he's writing the book. And then it said that there's no law and nothing is illegal, yet you can be charged with the death penalty for writing things. So that makes it seems like a contradiction, that there's no law but then there's punishment for breaking laws. So nothing's illegal but there are illegal things. That I can't wrap my head around that. Making a diary is punishable by death or 25 years forced labor. So why is it punishable if it's not illegal? Like, that their government, Big Brother, gotta like think of a way to explain that, unless they already just like brainwashed everyone. And then moving a little forward into the chapter, into this idea, he is writing because he wants to communicate with the future, but then he has a dilemma, and I this is a very interesting concept. I wonder how they're going to deal with this later on in the book. The dilemma of speaking to the future. If the future remains the same as what it currently is for him, then the people of that future won't listen to what he's writing. But if the future is different, then it's kind of pointless to write altogether. So then it seems like either way, the future is pointless unless he like the people that get his diary land in a position, well, on the timeline that's between being the same and changing. So it's like it could be like the deciding factor in how things go from then on. If it's like it lands at that point, it could be like something that sways the majority towards thinking a certain way rather than thinking all restricted as the book suggests in this opening chapter. And I really that's going to be one of my favorite themes in this, how it's going to work thinking or communicating with the future if it even happens, right? Something else, like while he's writing, and then the way the book describes some previous events, it made me very like I feel like war is going to be a big theme in the book because earlier on he was like, I can't remember what he was doing, but then military music was being played by like some public thing. They were playing military music. And then when he goes to the movies, as recounted in his diary, all the movies are like war themed. So it seems like war and peace, their peace is going to be like a big theme in the book, and it might be like influencing how everyone interacts with each other and with the government. And um I'll jump ahead a little bit and just return back because um actually no, I can just explain this cuz next this he sees this guy named O'Brien, and he like hopes for O'Brien to be unorthodox in his politics. Basically, he calls it intelligence as well. But so he's hoping for political dissent in O'Brien because it's like kind of like bubbling up super slowly within himself, and he kind of goes forward and back until he goes all the way forward at the end of the chapter into his political dissent, like, and he's panicking like a maniac by the end of the chapter because he's so worried about what he's done, which will is upcoming, right? So he's hoping for O'Brien to do that, and he said at one point that he glanced at O'Brien, and then O'Brien was glancing at him in the same way, and it was like a way of like communicating, as if it's like some anime, some action scene where it's like, oh wow, we're thinking the same thing. I understand you, right? So that I wonder if O'Brien's gonna be like a recurring character, or if he's just for this opening part just to get a better understanding of how Winston thinks. And then one thing I wasn't quite understanding of was the whole 2 minutes of the hate, and it says the hate, not hate. So it makes me think it's like an event that takes place, and it seems like an event, and I'm not exactly sure. I need to reread it where exactly it takes place. It seems like they're sitting down somewhere. He sees this other girl, who he's kind of hates her for like no good reason right now, but this girl's sitting behind him, and then there's a bunch of people apparently, and they're all chanting at this guy called Goldstein, who seems like the main antagonist towards the government and Big Brother right now. Not that Goldstein's a bad person. It seems like what he's championing is typical modern day freedoms, right? So like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, all that stuff, right? That's what Goldstein's championing for. And there's rumors about him having this whole club called the Brotherhood, where and a book called The Book with no title that shares his ideas and his heresies, but no one knows if it's actually true or not. No one knows where Goldstein is. He apparently was a big person in the party, and then after he betrayed them and then started a revolution, something like that. So that's gonna be like an interesting thing to see how, like, will Winston ever meet Goldstein? Not O'Brien. Will Winston ever meet Goldstein, and will he fully adopt Goldstein's ideas? Because midway through this whole 2 minutes of the hate, Winston starts chanting against Goldstein as well, even though it seems like those are the ideas that he likes. But then, like, he goes back and forth between thinking, oh, I hate Goldstein. But no, this hate's towards Big Brother instead. It's not towards Goldstein. And then by the end of it, he finally just he fully goes into like, okay, it's I don't like Big Brother, and then he starts writing something. But before I get to that, it was mentioned in like somewhere right after that part that it's about war again. So but it was mentioned that when they're at war, they're like Oceania's typically always at war, and either they're at war with Eurasia or they're at war with East Asia. So if they're at war with Eurasia, they're at peace with with East Asia. If they're at war with East Asia, they're at peace with Eurasia, and it kind of ties back to the idea that war is peace. But then it's like, why can't the people think there's an option to be at peace with both nations? Like, why do they have to be either fighting one or the other? And does it work the same for the other nations as well? Do we get to see anything about that? I don't know yet. We'll see as more chapters go on. And then yeah, so after that, Winston's like struggling with the hate, joining the other people even though he doesn't fully agree with their activity. He's switching from disdain to Goldstein to disdain for Big Brother and back to Goldstein, back and forth till the end where he starts writing in his book, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, and then he didn't even realize it. Like he subconsciously like just like brings that out of him. So it shows that he's really like against Big Brother, whatever Big Brother stands for, and he seems he more aligns with Goldstein. And as he's writing that, he's like, oh no, what have I done? Oh no, how am I gonna come back from this, right? And then yeah, so he's like, how am I gonna come back from this? Because he doesn't think that writing it was the big thing. He doesn't think that buying the diary was a big thing. He doesn't think that crumpling up the paper and throwing it away is gonna be a like no matter what he does, the situation is gonna stay the same. And this is because of the idea that's introduced next. It's that no matter what he does, he's already guilty of thought crime. And then he says that no matter when it happens, you could get away with it. Like you could get away with it for like a month, a year, a decade, but the thought police are always going to come to you. And then he also mentions like the thought police and then some like helicopter police that like check on people to see what they're doing. But he says that those people don't matter. Those police don't matter. It's the thought police that are going to get you. And it's the thought police that he's worried about. And then just as that happens, we're left off on a cliffhanger. Like, and I really wanted to keep reading, but then I had to make this video, right? So we're left on a cliffhanger where right after he's like panicking, wondering what he should do, he hears a knock at his door. And he mentions whenever the thought police come after you, it's always at night. Like, it's not even that people know about it. It's not even that, well, people do know about it, but it's like apparently they act like they don't. So it's not like people like acknowledge it. Like it's not like it's going to be a headline in the news. It's not like everyone's going to be talking about, oh, this person's gone. It's just that they're gone. They mention it as being vaporized. So they come in the night, they knock on the door, they shake you on their shoulders, wake you up, and then you're just gone. You're erased from all the record books. You're erased from the registry. Just the whole record of your person has just disappeared, and he's scared that that's going to happen to him. And then someone knocks on his door, and then right as he's about to, I believe he's about to open it, the chapter ends. I mean, that was a great opening chapter. And it was a little long. Normally opening chapters aren't that long. I didn't think it'd be like 14 pages long, but it was one of the quickest 14 pages I've ever read. Like I was like into it. And from all that I've heard about the book and how people say it reflects society today, I really want to like, maybe I'll comment on what I think about society as I continue reading it. Maybe it's going to change my mind about things. Maybe it's going to like make me like agree with it like completely. I hope not, because I don't want to agree with anything completely. Well, any person completely. But yeah, there's always going to be the next chapter. And that was a great chapter. Anyways, I think for the next one I'm gonna read the appendix where it shows about what new speak is, because that was a part that I didn't really understand. So if you're into this, like, subscribe. I'm gonna hopefully within the week upload the next chapter, and then we'll see how the book goes. And I obviously plan on finishing the whole book. I'm not sure how many chapters it is, but it shouldn't take more than like a month or two to finish. Maybe I'll do like 2 chapters for the next one, depending on how long they are. But with that, I'm done. Yeah, appendix is coming up next. Yeah, hopefully.